Righto, resuming exactly where we left off. That's going in now, but before I do that, well, sort of after I do that, but before I finish it off, I want to move that to this bolt hole, because there's no bolt that goes through this to the LS block. It actually bolts onto the back of the head, but the problem with that is I don't know exactly where this dipstick ends up, and I want to make sure it's right. So I might put it into the car so I can make sure that's going to fit before I go any further. I ain't going to win any beauty contests, but there's my bracket and some sun. Quick lick of paint as well. Isn't that nice? Alright, time to put the converter on. Okay, shifter's now on, and the torque converter is installed. Hopefully you can see that with the sun, because I cannot see the camera at all. I've written 25 on here, because the measurement between the face of the bell housing and the converter is 25mm. I just verified that against the flex plate, just to make sure that it was going in deep enough. It is, it will clear, so it's going in now. Apologies, didn't get as many videos as I'd hoped on that part. Transmission's back in, exhaust back on, tail shaft's back on, which you would have seen. I now need to address a leak of the diff. Now the diff is leaking out of the breather that we drilled into the diff cover instead of into the tube where it should have been, and the result of that is when it turns, it flicks fluid straight onto the breather, which sucks it straight out the back and then dumps it on the ground. So I need to address that before I go any further, so I'll do that now. Well, at least my spring won't rust. Just working on the diff today, and boy, it doesn't smell good, but diffs never do. The breather from this diff was in the cover, and it ran up into the chassis rail of the car, and you can see all the fluid would run down the spring where it would exit out the chassis rail up there. So, since discovered that you can't have the breathers in the cover because the oil flicks around everywhere and that's a shit place to put them. So I'm going to pull that out, I'm going to seal that hole up. I'm going to try and drill a breather in here somewhere on the tube, so I shouldn't have that problem. But before I do that, I've got to pull the wheel off, caliper off, axle out, so I can try and catch some of the metal filings that fall in. Should be interesting, but that's what I've got to do now. The axle's ready to pull out now. There's a pin that drives through the center of the center. That's secured by one bolt. I've got that out. Then you pull the axle in as far as you can, and there's a little clip in here, which is on my seat. That guy there called a C-clip, which is only able to be lifted out once the axle's pushed in. So that's what holds everything together. Naturally, this is a disc brake car, so the axles aren't going to go flying even without C-clips, but they do the job. So all going well, that axle should now just pop straight out of there. Okay, axle's out. There it is. Came straight out as I said it would. I've just drilled the hole, which is just there, and to try and capture as much of the shit from falling into the diff, I've just done this. And granted, it's not the best solution, but it's better than no solution. This is just a bit of pipe, and I've just halved it at the end. So if I'm just gonna pull this out now and see how my my dodgy plan sort of works. If it hits the wall, yeah. This should have caught the filings. Boom. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, just tapping that hole to 1/8 MPT now. You can see why I chose this location, because I can actually spin my tap ratchet in this spot. It also doesn't hit any of the can't really see anything, but it doesn't hit the bump stop, doesn't get in the way of any brake lines. It's a good spot. So yeah, I'm going to tap that, probably too deep, and then it won't work. But let's give it a go anyway. Diffs back together. Just need to fill up this hole. So I'm going to fill that with booger weld, and we'll never speak of it again. There you go. What hole? Bloody perfect. Cover back in, tightened. Sway bar back in, and panhard rod back in and tightened. So I'm just going to wait for the glue, because I've just glued that cover on, or siliconed it back on. I'm just going to clean that spring where all the shit's all over it. I'll run a hose, and then by the time that's all done, it should be ready to fill. Diff's all filled up now. Doesn't appear to be leaking anywhere. Time to take it out on the street, do a blocky, see if the diff leaks, see if I've got second gear. I hit something.
In the garage.
Did I? There's a wall.
Yeah, I hit the seal. It bounced off the seal. It was fucking funny.
Had a little whoopsie, crashed into the shed wall a bit. But that's alright. It's a Volvo, it hasn't marked it. It only hit the door frame anyway, so all good. All working perfectly. Got all my gears, it all feels nice. Diff doesn't appear to be leaking anywhere, at least not yet. Yeah, great success. Transmission work was certainly worth it. I do still have a problem with the pressure control solenoid in the transmission. It still turns off after a while and then maxes out line pressure. Makes the 1 to 2 shift pretty firm, but nothing that I don't think I can solve. I'll just have to work out what its problem is and fix it up. But that's it. Going to take it out on a cruise. Head out with a mate. He's going to do another video on his channel, so I'll link that as well. Just the us going on a cruise with this car. So definitely check that out on Everything Fuzzy. I'll put a link in the description, but check that out. You'll see more content of this car and other cool cars at the meet. And yeah, thanks for watching. Next video, I'm going to address little things like injectors, just getting it ready for dyno tuning, which should be pretty exciting. Thanks everyone. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. More content coming soon. Thanks.